Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. And good morning to everybody who is here. I see, let's see, who is around this morning. Good morning, Jan. Good morning, Maria. It is indeed going to be a beautiful day, Maria. It is already shaping up to be one. Good morning to, good morning to Tony. Good morning, Shauna. Great to see all of you guys here today. Thank you so much for being on the wake up call. We are here today to really to affirm some good stuff about us. And as we do that, we are completely changing the way that we perceive the world. So I'm going to pull a card off the top of my deck. I'm going to ask you if you are the affirmation on the card, and we are going to respond out loud together. I am that affirmation. As we do that, these words are so simple, and yet the way that they affect our lives is complex. The amount of situations that we're going to be in today where where these affirmations are going to come up and they're going to help us to have a better life. They really can't even be predicted. But I do know that when I do this, when I use this as my daily practice, that oftentimes my oftentimes I will realize that I am being the affirmation on the card, at least a couple dozen times consciously, and say, oh, well, I am this or I am that. And so therefore, how would I behave when something comes to take away my peace? These affirmations are most powerful when something is coming in our lives to take away our peace, when something is happening that is making us think to ourselves, well, life isn't going the way that I want it to, and so therefore I have to have some kind of response to this. So these cards help us to have really healthy responses. So good morning, Dan. Like coming in from Buford. I'm always nice to know that you're coming in from Buford. And thank you for sharing this broadcast, Tony, and everybody else who shares this broadcast. You guys are amazing, helping the message grow. That's a perfect thing to do. Anyways, I'm going to pull this card off the top of the deck. I'm going to ask you if you are the affirmation on the card, and we will respond out loud together. I am that affirmation. And so let's do that and pull the card and say that today I am decisive. I am decisive. I focused on what is most important. So I am decisive. I focus on what is most important. Are you decisive? You are decisive. You focus on what is most important. And I'm going to write that down in the comments, that I am decisive, that I focus on what is most important. And today, if you are at least in my area, perhaps it's nationwide, but definitely in my area. So today is election day. And so I very specifically chose the I am decisive card, and that you are decisive as well, because, well, we have some decisions to make today. The fact is that when we vote for a candidate, you can't back two candidates in an election. You got to back one. You have to decide which one of these candidates agrees with you on the things that are most important to you, and vote for that candidate. And so I selected. Usually I will randomly choose a card. I actually have a little program. Either I have my physical deck in front of me, or I have a little program that'll just kind of select one of the card images, and that'll be the one that I use for the wake up call. But I actually chose this one intentionally last night because it is election day today, and so all across America, people are choosing what is most important. It's not the presidential election, in case you're wondering. It is not. It is not November. But what it is, it's actually local elections around here. And as one of my friends said, all politics is local. And so as as I have to make choices about how to instruct my elected officials on what to do, and I do, I had to be educated about the issues in my county, not the issues nationwide, not a president that that will make decisions that really don't affect me, but rather I have to make choices about who to put into office today, and what it is that they are to focus on while they're in office. And these choices that I make will directly affect me. They will directly affect the way that my little county runs. And so because of that, it's a responsibility. It's a civic duty and a civic responsibility. And so I am decisive today. I'm focused on what is most important. But the most important thing, more so than what any individual candidate stands for, is the fact that I'm going to go cast my vote. That's the most important thing. The fact that I am making a decision, not whether or not my decision will ultimately be the right one. The fact is that not making a decision is itself a decision, and it's one that we all get caught up in life so often. How often have you just sort of delayed making a choice until the choice was all but made for you? I know that happens to me, it's never really to my benefit when it happens. I find that I have a much better life when I make a choice quickly, and even if that choice ends up having consequences that I'm not happy about, I still made the choice. I still decided. I every time that I run every time that the word decide comes up, or decisive in this case, I'm always reminded of my friend Cash. He tells this story about the root of the word decide. And he says that the word decide, the root comes from the Latin decidere. And decidere means to cut off, and even more extreme to cut off, to kill off. So when we decidere, when we decide, we cut off the possibilities that are not the best possibilities, so that we can focus on the one that we are putting all of our energy into. So too, when I go into the voting booth today, I can't vote for two candidates. I can't say, well, this one has some good some good points, and this other one has some good points, and so let's elect them both, and they can work together. It's not how voting works. And when we vote, we put together, people put forth candidates, and then we vote on which of those candidates we believe will represent our interests the best. But we can't vote for two. We can only vote for one. We can't vote two ways on an issue. We can't go into the voting booth and say, oh, well, I want to build that new high school, but I also don't want to raise taxes. So let's just do the one thing without doing the other. Choices have consequences. Decisions have consequences. And since we know we're going to have the consequences anyways, let's make sure that what we are deciding is the thing that gives us the most benefit. So I am decisive today. I'm going to go into a voting booth and I'm going to make some decisions. And if you are in my area, I highly encourage you to go do the same thing. If you live in the same community where I do, District 2 is where we're going to go vote, and it's right around the corner from the courthouse. So that's where the polling place is. So I am decisive today. I'm going to make some decisions. Those decisions may or may not ever come to pass, because that's how voting works. Perhaps more people in my local area think differently than I do. And that's okay, because ultimately that's what the elective process is all about. And so I am decisive, and you are decisive too. And today we're going to make lots and lots of choices. I picked the card, decided on it, if you will, because of a fairly major event that's happening in my local area, which is that there are municipal elections or local elections. But the fact is that we make decisions every single day. We make hundreds of decisions. I remember that about a couple months back, I actually hosted a journal burning party. Man, choosing to burn your journals, that's also a decision. But I remember that before I burned my journals, I reread them to see what I could glean from around the edges. And one of the interesting things that I saw when I did that was that when I had made a decision, and that decision was based on my core values, the things that I think are most important in life, that the decision, even if it didn't have the consequences that I thought it would, even if it didn't end up as good as I thought it would, because when has a decision ever ended up as good as we thought or hoped it would? But when I made a decision that was based on those values, that decision oftentimes turned out well for me. But when I made a hasty choice, that was based on based on short-term short-term things that were going on in my world, then that decision oftentimes was not a very good one for me. So as we focus on what is most important today, let's just be aware that the most important stuff is our essentially the values that we live by, our own personal codes of ethics and honor. And the reason that I chose a camera, and this is a new image for Decisive, by the way. I had another camera lens, but it just didn't look as cool, so I chose this fun little classic camera. But the reason I chose a camera is because The world is what it is. The photographer goes around the world and frames it as art. The photographer notices that there's something interesting and decides to catch it. And every photographer will tell you, every photographer who knows what they're doing will tell you that there are opportunities for pictures everywhere. You just have to be able to see them. It's not about the equipment that we use, it's about our vision, our ability to see, our ability to frame what is in such a way that is most beneficial to us. And so I am decisive today. You are decisive too. I'm going to go make decisions about who to vote for and what to vote for, but also I'm going to make decisions about all day long about how I'm going to comport myself in this life, how I'm going to hold myself, what kind of an ethical standard that I'm going to hold myself to, what kind of a behavioral standard I'm going to hold myself to. So I am decisive today. You are decisive too, and together we are going to focus on what is most important. As we do that, we are building into our own lives. We are building into the lives of the people around us. We are building a better world. That better world comes when each and every one of us choose what's most important for us and then sticks to our guns and continues to make choices day in and day out that are conducive to being, to those choices. So I am decisive. You are decisive too. And we are going to make good choices today. All right, so I am off to the polling place to go and cast my vote. And if you are in my area, please also exercise your civic right and duty to do that as well. This is we can't complain about the government if we didn't at least make a choice about who it is that we would prefer to be in office and the way that we would prefer that they spend the resources that we allocate to them. So I'm decisive today. You are decisive today as well. And so let's focus on what is most important. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Until then, this is your reminder that you are an awesome human being, that I love you, that I care about you, that I think that you're amazing, that I believe that you're making decisions that are good for you, and I believe in your ability to make decisions that are good for you, and that I am excited to be living in the world that you are creating, and that we are creating together. Until we speak tomorrow at 9 a.m., aloha from paradise.